Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the Ekādaśī narration. Today's Ekādaśī is called Vijayā Ekādaśī. So we shall narrate this Ekādaśī, which is from the Skanda Purāṇa. So thank you very much for joining. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are reading from the Skanda Purāṇa, Vijayā Ekādaśī. Previous Ekādaśī was called Vijayā Ekādaśī also. So now Jai Vijay. Yudhishthir Maharaj said, O Lord Shri Krishna, O glorious son of Vasudeva, please be merciful to me and describe the Ekādaśī that occurs during the dark fortnight of the month of Phalguna, February-March. Lord Shri Krishna replied, O Yudhishthira, O King of Kings, gladly I shall tell you about this great fast, known as Vijayā Ekādaśī. Whoever observes it certainly achieves success in this life and the next. All the sins of one who fasts on this Ekādaśī and hears its sublime glories are eradicated. Hears his sublime glories. So please hear with faith in this story. Hearing is actually done with the mind, not with our ears. Ears are simply instruments that bring in the vibration to the mind. But if the mind is not focused, and if an aspect of the intellect, which means one doesn't have faith in the narration, that is not really called hearing. We are hearing so many sounds, we are hearing so many stories. But if we put faith in those stories, that is hearing. And if we become absorbed in trying to really understand what we're hearing, realize it, ponder upon it, dwelling. This word is used sometimes in the Vedic Shastra. Dwell, to dwell. Of course, there's a Sanskrit word for this, but to dwell into something. Just like when there's a thought in the mind and one dwells in it, he ponders upon it and he focuses, he meditates. This is a meaning of meditation, to deeply think about something. So let us all deeply think about this Vijayā Ekādaśī story narration and meditate upon it with faith. Narada Muni once asked Lord Brahma, who sits on a lotus flower, about the Vijayā Ekādaśī. Sri Narada said, O best of all the demigods, kindly tell me the merit one can achieve by faithfully observing Vijayā Ekādaśī. Narada's great father then replied, My dear son, this oldest of fasting days is pure, and it nullifies all sins. I have never revealed this to anyone until today. But you can understand beyond any doubt that this Ekādaśī bestows the result indicated by its name, Vijaya. Vijaya means victory. Vijaya, victory. So what is this victory? This is another different understanding according to a person's different realization of what life is. Victory for a businessman is to make a lot of money. Victory for a sportsman is to beat the enemy. Victory for a country is to defeat the other army. At the moment that we speak, there is Russia that has attacked Ukraine. So their understanding of victory is to take back Ukraine. President Putin will be very happy if he can control Ukraine again, or at least establish a leader that is favorable to him. Anyway, so according to different state of realization, the words that we use have different meaning. This is what Sanskritam is such a deep language, because it realizes this. It understands that words are something that is subjectively perceived. So if I say to someone, apple, so for someone the realization of an apple is different than someone else. Maybe that person really likes apple, and when I speak of apple, it affects that person's consciousness, that yes, I would like to eat apple, that would be nice. And someone else might hate apples, and that would be different. Someone might have worked in an apple, how do you call this? Not yard, a place where many fruits grow. I've lost the word. And he might understand more how it works, how apples need that much water, that much sun, how apples on the southern side of the tree are always more red than the northern side, etc. So many, depends on realization. For example, the word Atma. Atma refers to body, mind and soul in Sanskrit, according to different application of the word. So yesterday I was listening to some philosopher, materialistic philosopher, discussing about ideas. Why I came upon this is because I'm planning to start some videos that are more targeted for non-devotees but seekers, those who are philosophically inclined, scientifically inclined, because this video channel that you have here is mainly made for devotees. Our vlogs are tailored for devotee purposes. I do not explain too much the philosophy because I take it for granted that most people have at least a basis. Of course we speak about it sometimes, but not like we would speak to a newcomer. So anyway, so I was watching them, and they had all these very complicated ideas, because philosophers are very good at agitating the mind to try to analyze something from different angles, and by agitating the mind, it sorts of causes an emulsification of thoughts, and bubbles burst here and there, and then they speak them out. So they always use the term I, my, this, that. But before even starting to argue and use this word I, one should first of all understand what it means. I, what is the I? This is the whole mistake. Just like the beginning of the equation is wrong, and the whole equation is wrong. So we always use this term I, but we do not know what is I. We say my hand, my arm, my heart, my brain, my eyes, my mind, my intelligence. So as soon as we use the pronoun, is it a pronoun? No, as we use the word my, immediately we understand that there's subject and object. If we say my, immediately I am subject, and the thing we are referring to is object. So if I say my brain, that means I'm different. Automatically I'm different from the brain. That is naturally we say like this. It is a natural understanding that we are not the brain. Right? My sleep is not good. My mood, my emotions recently are. So it's always an object that we're referring to. So there's sleeping state, there's awake state, but who is it that's sleeping? Who is it that's sleeping? That's the living entity. So the intelligent might go to sleep, because intelligence goes to sleep. It's not the mind. The mind is still active in dream, right? Dreams means the mind. But the intelligence is sleeping, and that's why we don't analyze what we're seeing. We might see a tiger running with a horse head or something, and we don't think that this is completely out of the common. I must be dreaming. We don't do that. We remain in the dream. And actually, when we start to do this and really try to analyze what's going on, we wake up, because we wake up the intelligence. But we are only observing. We are the observer who is in the background of all these things. The mind is the subtle object on which our consciousness shines on. And the gross object, earth, water, fire, air, ether, even ether can be categorized as a gross object, although it is the subtlest of all gross objects. All the sense objects that are created out of these things are the gross movie on which my consciousness is shining. but I'm way behind. Sense objects, like a phone, sense object. Higher than that, the senses. Higher than the senses, the mind. Higher than the mind, the intelligence. Higher than intelligence, the false ego. And the soul is higher than all of them. So, today's Ekādaśī is Vijayā, which means victory. And the true meaning of victory is one who conquers the repetition of birth and death. That is the real meaning of victory. When Lord Rāma was exiled to the forest for 14 years, he, the goddess Sita, and his divine brother Lakshmana stayed at Panchavati as mendicants. Mother Sita was then kidnapped by the demon Ravana, and Lord Rāma seemingly became bewildered like an ordinary man by distress. While searching for his beloved consort, the Lord came upon the dying Jatayu, and thereafter killed his enemy Kabandha. The great devotee vulture Jatayu returned to Vaikuntha after telling Ram how his dear Sita had been abducted by Ravana. It's nice that here we speak of the Ramayana, the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. Recently I bought a Ramayana for my son, a very well made book, but it is not written by devotees. In a sense, it is not written by Vaishnavas. So it is written by some person, so Hindu. Generally, the understanding that people have in Hinduism is that God is impersonal, and that his forms, such as Lord Rama and Krishna, are manifestation of Maya. So that when the God comes and takes a form, that form is a display of ignorance. So Vaishnavas are strongly against this. The forms of the Lord are eternally existing. They are Satchidananda Vigraha. The mistake is, the mundane philosophers will say that one thinks that God is like him. This is anthropology. Since I am like this, then the divine must also look like this. You see, and if I say like this, it is actually to think that God is like me, because they think, well, I have 2 hands, 2 arms, therefore the divine must be a supreme 2 hands, 2 arms. So they say, this is the mistake that the religionists do, or the personalists do. They try to make God like themselves. But why limit God? That is the argument. Why limit God? If you give God a form, you are limiting the infinite. Now actually they become guilty of the exact accusation that they're doing. Why? Because their accusation is that you think that God is like you. You make God limited like you. But actually, you are assuming that if God has got a form, it is a limited form like you. That is the mistake. You think that if God has got 2 hands, 2 legs, it is like your 2 hands, 2 legs. Therefore, before even giving this argument, you are presuming that all forms must be like yours. This is a presumption, and it is a mistake, because you are not qualified to make such an assumption, because you have not knowledge of all forms. What you are studying is, after all, within this universe. You do not know what life is. This is for material scientists, mainly, also. First, you do not know, and even Mayavedi philosophers from the Sankaracharya line, they do not really understand what life is. You do not understand what life is. Your senses are imperfect, and what you're analyzing is clearly within a globe. You are looking very far away. You're seeing this is the universe. What is beyond, we do not know. Therefore, you do not know if there's an existence beyond this ever-changing cosmic manifestation. Therefore, you cannot prove that there are forms which are non-eternal. I mean to say, you cannot disprove that there are eternal forms. So this is the thing. So we think that God, if God has a form, it is limited just like ours. So we equate, we bring God to our level. But Brahma Samhita says, Indriyani sakalendriya vrittimanti, right? What is that verse? I'm forgetting now. So the meaning, sakala indriya vritti manti. The meaning is that all the senses of the Lord have got the function of performing all other senses. And his senses also are Satchidananda Vigraha. So his senses are Satchidananda, they're not limited like ours. In other words, his arm can accept and reach thing in all phases of time and all space, because he is beyond this cosmic manifestation, and the separation between spirit and matter occurs due to time. Time is the border. It is the energy of the Supreme Lord. It is a manifestation of him in the material world, time. Everything material is controlled by time. And the first of the gross element is space. Space means what? Space simply means space. Why I can put my phone here? Because there's space where I can put my phone here. Space. So spirit is beyond time and space. So therefore the Lord, by his senses, can do whatever he wants in the past, present, or future, near, far, or infinitely far. He can hear with his eyes, he can see with his nose, he can smell with his hands. So this is the proper understanding, that God has got a form, and his form is not limited. And at the same time, he has also no form, and that is the Brahman effulgence. So he has both. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. 3 features. That is complete. If he was just impersonal, he would be incomplete. But how can the absolute be incomplete? The very definition of absolute is that he's always complete and always self-sustenance. He does not require anything. He's absolute in himself, and every part of the absolute must be absolute in itself also. Therefore, Krishna is not different from his names, his qualities, his pastimes. So if you're hearing the word Krishna, it is complete. If you're seeing a pastime of the Lord, it is complete. There's nothing missing. There cannot be anything missing. Of course, this is all things that we realize by spiritual advancement, because we're dealing with a person. We're not dealing with a washing machine. I'm hearing the washing machine at the moment. Washing machine means there are buttons. If I press something and I do something wrong, I get the wrong result. If I force the washing machine, I can get the result that I want. But God is not like this. He's superior than us, and he's a person. He's sentient. Therefore, to understand him depends on him only. He's completely independent. I cannot force him like I can force the washing machine. And if I make a mistake with the washing machine, but that is not my intention, that mistake might not be taken into account by the Lord, because he's a person and he's in our heart, and he actually knows what we wanted to do, even though we made a mistake. Therefore, he will reciprocate with the desire instead of the action itself. Similarly, if I offer something to the Lord, that is a proper action, but if my desire is wrong, he will not reciprocate. So, coming back to Ramayana, I bought this book for my son, and it was not written by devotees, so therefore at the end I saw, it's a nice book, beautiful pictures. Of course, they're not devotionally painted like the ISKCON Prabhupada disciples' paintings. They're so beautiful. You know what the devotees have brought. Of course, you cannot see them fully, but you know ISKCON painting. What the devotees have done when it comes to art is unparalleled. There's nothing like this in the world. The pastimes of the Lord that are depicted in these beautiful paintings, Prabhupada said they're like windows to the spiritual world. It's not a painting, it's a hole in the wall, and you're seeing through in the spiritual world. It is so beautiful. And you can see that it is full of devotion. You know. But those who are not devotees will depict sometimes the Lord a bit cartoony. Now that one that I chose was not too cartoony, it was quite realistic still. But towards the end, we see a translation of Brahma speaking to Lord Ram, saying, abandon this Maya of yours. Meaning, abandon this Maya body of yours, you know. So the translation is wrong. That is not proper. Of course, Brahma did speak something that sounded a bit offensive in the Ramayana. I think he was sort of telling Lord Ram that stop, please do not be bewildered, my Lord, you know. Sort of trying to tell Lord Ram to stop acting as a human being or something. Of course, this I will not purport that, because I do not know the intention of Lord Brahma. We would have to read the purport of a pure devotee to really understand what that means. But anyway, I could see some translation that were a bit off. But of course, I'm not reading the whole text because it's quite long, so I'm speaking this to my son as I understand the Ramayana. And yes, so that's what I'm saying here, Ramayana, and now we're speaking of Ramayana, so that is nice. Jatayu, Jatayu, he was a vulture, a great devotee of the Lord, and he left his body. He tried to protect Sita Devi when Ravana kidnapped her, and he died. Ravana cut one of his wings and he fell, and then Ram and Lakshmana found him, and he left his body. He went back to Vaikuntha. So, later, Lord Rama and Sugriva, the king of the monkeys, became friends. Together, they amassed a grand army of monkeys and bears and sent Hanumanji to Sri Lanka, where he was able to see Janaki, Sita Devi, in an Ashoka garden. He delivered Lord Rama's message and showed the ring, proving his authenticity for rendering such great service to the Supreme Lord. So that is a very condensed version of the Ramayana. So yes, after they found Jatayu, they met Hanuman. Of course, there's so many pastimes, They met Hanuman, and then yes, he met Sugriva. Sugriva at that time was still not the king of the Vanara soldiers, the monkey-like men. And he had to kill Bali, who was the brother of Sugriva. And this is another pastime of the Lord which is very controversial amongst the mental speculators. How the Lord can hide and kill someone from far away without, just like a hunter. So as if, again, same mistake is here. Lord Ram's hunting is like my hunting. Because my hunting is degraded. Actually, when they speak like this about the Lord, they are indirectly acknowledging their fallen position. Because what is the wrong in hunting? It is bad, right? It is bad to go out and kill animals for one's sense gratification. So they know that. It's at the back of their mind. So therefore, God should not be degraded like me. That's what they're saying. In other words, they are almost glorifying the Lord like this. By criticizing Lord Ram's hunting, they are acknowledging that their position is falling. Because they know that me, when I go and hunt and kill an animal, it's causing pain to that animal. And for what? Simply for that little piece of meat that I want daily on my tongue. That's all. For that, I'm willing to go and kill someone's father or someone's son. Because animals, they have father, they have families. They miss one another. If you kill them, they will miss that father or mother for their whole life. They will feel pain. They will cry even. So you kill someone's father or mother or family member for that piece of meat that you want daily. So they know it is bad. So it is degraded. And since the Lord's pastimes are completely opposite in quality to it, opposite in quality means Satchidananda, and here is Asat, Achit, Ananda, or should I say Ananda? No, or Virananda. So it is temporary, full of misery and ignorance. That is the activities found in this material world, whereas the activities of the Lord are eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. Now, if you want that bliss, you have to be connected properly. This is the punishment of the conditioned souls in the material world. They have been disconnected from these things. We are no longer eternal, although we are, but practically speaking, we are not. Practically meaning we live one life at a time and we don't even realize we're eternal, and we're born and we die. That is not called eternality. You are not realization. So although, yes, death is an illusion, because we're eternal spirit soul, for us, conditioned soul, it is not an illusion, because we feel pain. There was a philosopher once in the West, the time of Socrates maybe, he was saying everything is false. That was his challenge. The other philosopher said, I refute your theory, and he kicked a rock very hard. That's intelligence, because you claim that everything is false, but I'm going to kick that rock and I'm going to feel the pain. Now, you might argue whether the rock is false or not, whether this energy is real or not, whether a rock is simply a concept within the mind for us that we try to rationalize the form of matter or whatever. You can speculate as much as you want, but the pain that you feel by breaking your foot and kicking on it, that is real. That you cannot deny. And that's why the material world is slapping us left and right to make us realize that, look, wake up. This is real. You're suffering. Why are you suffering? You should not be in a COVID-infested world, waiting to die, seeing countries go at war with one another, breathing polluted air, infested with cancerous, poisonous thing in your food. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. I don't want to make everybody depressed here, but this is not pessimism. This is, how do you say? It's not pessimism, nor is it optimism. It is realism. That's all. We just analyze this world as it is. And as far as Shastra is concerned, Dukhalayama Shashvatam, what Krishna says. It is a place of misery and temporary. Even if you argue that you're happy, all right, your happiness won't last. Is that nice? You like something and you cannot keep it. That itself is misery. So, I lost a bit my train of thought. I was speaking of matter not being real, kicking the rock. Yes, it is real. And before that, so anyway, we started by saying that someone is saying that the pastimes of the Lord are also wrong, because they have only bad experience of variety in this material world. So Asat, Achit here, and Virananda, that's the thing. So these are the activities in this material world, but the spiritual activities of the Lord are full of bliss. And if you want to be understanding that, you must be connected with the Lord. You must be in agreement with Him. Therefore, He will let you slowly regain back your nature. As fast as you surrender, as fast as you will gain it back. You will be eternal, because your existence will not end. You see, those who live their conception of life under this bodily concept, they die actually at death. What does that mean? Is that their whole ego, this whole show going on, that I'm living, that I'm the father of this person, I'm the husband of that wife, I'm the leader of this company, I'm the countryman. All this will die at the time of death. Mrityu savasrahara, right? All devouring death. All devouring death will come and just crumble. But a devotee who's fully situated in his nature, at the time of death, death is just like changing clothes for him. It is described by Vishwavana Chakravarti Thakur in his Madhurya Kadambini how a devotee dies. He says that the devotee is performing devotional service, he's immersed in the pure devotional service of the Lord, and he just performs service, and at one point he looks and he sees that there's a dead body here, and he's okay, there's a dead body, and he continues performing devotional service. There's no stoppage, you see. He's performing devotional service, and at one point, yes, there's a small change, that the change is that he sees that he dropped something, but he doesn't care so much, and he continues performing devotional service. He carries on. So there's no stoppage. Of course, that body, you understood, it's his body, So he continues. So there's no stoppage. But for a materialist, this is the greatest suffering, the greatest fear that is coming. So the difference between a cat holding the kitten in his mouth and a rat in his mouth. For a rat, it means death. For a kitten, it means security. The devotee has no fear. He knows that when this body falls, I will simply finally be restrained, freed from this seemingly conditioning. For a pure devotee, there's no conditioning, but we can say that there is a different form of devotional service. Once that is done, he can again get his Nitya Svarup, his real form in Vaikuntha, or the spiritual world. So the pastimes of the Lord are different than ours. Very, very different. Completely opposite. We cannot fathom even. So Hanuman proved that he was a servant of Ram, Brahmaduta Hanuman, by showing the ring to Sita Devi. Then, with the help of Sugriva, Lord Ram proceeded towards Sri Lanka. Upon arriving at the shore of the ocean with the army of monkeys, he could understand that the water was uncommonly deep. Thus he said to Lakshmana, O son of Sumitra, how can we earn enough merit to be able to cross this vast ocean, the unfathomable abode of Varuna? I can see no easy way to cross it, teeming as it is with sharks and other ferocious aquatics. Lakshmana replied, O best of all beings, O origin of all the devas, O primal personality, the great sage Bhagadalbhya lives on an island just 4 miles from here. O Raghava, he has seen many Brahmas come and go. So aged and wise he is. Let us ask him how we can safely reach our goal. So Bhagadalbhya, I believe it's the sage who got the boon or curse, it depends on how you see it, to live as many Brahmas as there are hair on his body. I believe that's this sage, because if I'm wrong, maybe you can, and maybe you can write in the comment section. So as many Brahmas as he has hair on his body. Brahma lives for 311 trillion years. 311 trillion years. We should not be Dr. Frogs, because we'll pop out. Dr. Frogs tried to blow his belly. Is the Pacific Ocean big like this? No, it's not big like this. Is the Pacific Ocean big like this? No, it's not big like this. And at one point he'll just burst, because he cannot accommodate the creation of the Lord, which is in his puny, tiny mind. This sage is not even God. He's not God. He's just part and parcel of God. And yet, he is so great that he's living much longer than any Brahma. So actually, we just cannot understand infinity. We always think that there's a boundary, because everything we know of has a beginning and an end. Our very body starts and ends and has limits. So our existence is like this, so we think that everything else is like this. But if God is infinite, then this material world is infinite. The spiritual world is infinite. Now there can still be ratio in infinity. Just like it is said that the entire creation of the Lord, 3/4 is the spiritual world and 1/4 is the material world. We learned this from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said. Now, when you put 1/4, 3/4, it seems to be a mundane calculation. But no, it is ratio. Ratios are there in infinity also. Although there can be an infinity of something and an infinity of that, still, if you take that much of infinity and you make it finite, you will find a ratio. You will find that there's so much of this and there's that much of that. You see? That's why, like for example, there's infinite devotees of the Lord and there's infinite conditioned souls. But we see how much a pure devotee is rare. But pure devotees must be infinite also. There must be an infinite number of them. But they're so rare that when you take a closed environment like this earth, we rarely see one. So Lakshman and Lord Ram went to see sage Bhagadalbhya. So Ram and Lakshman proceeded to the humble ashram of the incomparable Bhagadalbhya Muni. Approaching him, the two lords paid their respectful obeisances to him, as if he were a second Vishnu. Bhagadalbhya could understand, however, that Sri Ram was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who for his own reasons had appeared on the earth as a human being. O Ram, said Bhagadalbhya, O best of the beings, why have you come to my lowly abode? The Lord replied, O great, twice-born brāhmaṇa, I have come here to the ocean shore with my phalanx of monkey and bear warriors in order to cross the sea and conquer Laṅkā and its demon horde. O greatest of sages, please be merciful unto me, and please tell me how I can cross this vast ocean, That is why I have come to you today. The sage said, O Lord Ram, I shall tell you of the most exalted of all fasts, observing which you will be surely conquering Ravana and be eternally glorified. Kindly now listen with full attention. On the day before Ekādaśī, fashion a water pot of gold or silver, or even copper. Even clay will do if these metals are unavailable. Fill the pot with pure water, and then decorate it nicely with mango leaves. Cover it and place it near a holy altar upon a mound of 7 greens. Now take your morning bath. Decorate the water pot with flower garlands and sandalwood pastes, and in the concave lid atop of the pot place there the barley, pomegranate, and coconut. Now with great love and devotion worship the water pot deity, foam, and offer him incense, sandalwood paste, flowers, a ghee lamp, and a plate of sumptuous foods. Remain awake that night beside this sacred pot. Remain awake that night beside this sacred pot. On top of the lid, filled with barley, etc., place a golden murti of Lord Sri Narayana. When Ekādaśī dawns, take your morning bath and then decorate the water pot with fine sandalwood paste and garlands. Then worship the pot again with first-class incense, lamps, sandalwood paste, and flowers dipped in sandalwood paste. And then devoutly place many kinds of cooked food, pomegranate, and coconut before the water pot. Then remain awake overnight. So the sage has described to Lord Ram how to perform Ekādaśī. So from this Purana, we get information that when the Lord was approaching Varuna to cross over, he actually did this. He followed the Ekādaśī Vrata in a very strict manner. When the Dvadashi dawns, take the water pot to the bank of the holy river, or even to the shore of a small pond. After worshipping it again properly, O King of Kings, offer it with all the aforementioned ingredients to a pure-hearted brāhmaṇa, expert in the Vedic sciences. If you and your military commanders observe the Vijayā Ekādaśī in this way, you will surely be victorious in every way. Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did just as Bhakadhalbhya Muni instructed, and thus he conquered all demoniac forces. Similarly, anyone who observes the Vijayā Ekādaśī in this way will always be victorious in this mortal world. And after leaving this world, he or she will reside forever in the anxiety-free realm of the kingdom of God. Anxiety-free means Vaikunta. Kunta means anxiety. Vai means without. No anxiety. Vaikunta. And actually, Lord, in South India, Lord Venkateshvara. Actually, the proper pronunciation is Lord Vaikunta Ishvara. It's not Venkateshvara. Venkateshvara has no meaning, Prabhupada said. It should be Vaikunta Ishvara. Ishvara means the proprietor or the controller, the enjoyer of Vaikunta. So Vaikunta Ishvara, Vaikunteshvara, not Venkateshvara. Then, yes. O Narada, my son, from this history you can understand why one should observe this Ekādaśī fast properly, strictly following the rules and regulations. This fast is powerful enough to eradicate all one's sinful reactions, even the most abominable ones. Shri Krishna concluded, O Yudhishthira, anyone who reads or hears this history will attain the same great merit as that which is earned by performing a horse sacrifice. Thus ends the Vrajavasi narration of the glories of Phalguna Krishna Ekādaśī or Vijayā Ekādaśī from the Skanda Purāṇa. So there are some notes here. Speaking of Sugriva, I don't think we need... Yes, so the 7 grains that are mentioned, to put in the pot: barley, wheat, rice, corn, chickpeas, kukani, and dal, or peas. So, beautiful story. Lord Ram followed this Ekādaśī So not only the Lord is the creator of Ekādaśī, He's also the observer of Ekādaśī for teaching us. So we should also follow in the footsteps of the Lord. He's doing this also to teach us, Of course, it's for His own pleasure. He derives pleasure. If we can feel happiness following Ekādaśī, can't the Lord also feel happiness? He's feeling pleasure following His own Ekādaśī, and at the same time He's showing by example what we should be doing. Srila Prabhupada has made everything more simple. Ekādaśī, we should boil down the eating and sleeping, because like this we just don't need to think about that. When you start to be anxious for eating and sleeping, it takes so much of your day, right? Oh, what am I gonna eat? I'm late for eating. Okay, I gotta go there. I gotta wash my thing. I gotta serve. I gotta eat. I gotta digest. I have to wash my. So much endeavor is there for this eating thing, and sleeping also. Oh, I have to go take a nap and all. So anyway, so if you don't eat, don't sleep, that's it. You have so much time during the day, and you can read more, chant more. That's the whole point. Also, giving donations on Ekādaśī are always very meritorious. We have some devotees who kindly give us donation on every Ekādaśī, so we humbly thank them very much. The Lord will be very happy with them. We bless, we pray for their welfare, for their spiritual advancement, because there's no doubt that if one supports the preaching activities, he is also very much recognized by the Lord, because after all, preaching is the highest. And if one supports the preacher, he is also linked to the highest, you see. So there's a beautiful verse which I saw, and I wanted to share. It's not this one, yeah. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 8:744. Tapantyalokatapena sadavaha prayashojana paramaradhanam tadhi purushasya kilatmana. It is said that great personalities almost always accept voluntary suffering because of the suffering of the people in general. This is considered the highest method of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present in everyone's heart. The highest method of worshipping the Lord is to voluntarily go through sufferings in order to mitigate the sufferings of others. That is preaching. Preachers will go through so much disturbances in order to benefit others. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, "One who preaches the message of Bhagavad Gita to my devotees is most dear to me. No one can excel him in satisfying me by worship." There are different kinds of welfare activities in this material world, but the supreme welfare activity is the spreading of Krishna consciousness. Other welfare activities cannot be effective, for the laws of nature and the results of karma cannot be checked. It is by destiny, or the laws of karma, that one must suffer or enjoy. There are so many welfare activities trying to eradicate poverty. What have they done? Poor people are still there. People are trying to give everybody jobs. Some people are still poor in the street. We see it in America. So many poor people are there in the street, homeless. You cannot help someone materially. It's not possible. You can help someone spiritually, though. If one tries to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, he should be understood to be performing the best welfare activity. The Lord is automatically very pleased with him. If the Lord is pleased with him, what is left for him to achieve? If one has been recognized by the Lord, even if he does not ask the Lord for anything, the Lord who is within everyone supplies him whatever he wants. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yo vividata kaman. There is one eternal, that is the Lord. There's many eternal, that is us. And the Lord supplies everything that the living entities require. He supplies even to birds and beasts. So many birds are there, then elephants are there. Nobody goes and feeds them every morning. Every morning someone goes in Africa and feeds the thousands of elephants that are there. No. The Lord provides. So what to speak of someone who has dedicated his life for propagating his glories. So we are humbly trying to do this here in China. So any help is much appreciated. So thank you very much. This was the narration of Vijayā Ekādaśī from the Skanda Purāṇa. So all glories to Lord Ramachandra. Jai Sitaram, Jai Lakshman, Hanuman. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Vanchakalpatarubhischa kripa sindhubhyaya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Kuti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.